One of the things that frustrates me beyond belief is that so many issues which are so serious are just not discussed nearly enough, not presented nearly enough by the media, and it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. The fact that you have to, dig and search really hard for the most serious things happening in the world, it's maddening. It's maddening. Well, Common Dreams is reporting on one of these kinds of issues. It's about Iran, and they say the following. So first, the tweet from John Hudson. Scoop. Trump administration to impose crushing new sanctions on Iran tomorrow in defiance of Europe's humanitarian objections. The result is an effective blacklist of the entire Iranian financial industry, which could impact food and medicine imports. According to Bloomberg, the new sanctions would designate the Iranian financial sector under Executive Order 13902, which President Donald Trump signed in January to clamp down on mining, construction, and other industries. That would not only affect banks, but also remittance processors, money changers, and the informal transfer system used frequently in the Muslim world, known as Hawala. Quote, then the administration would blacklist roughly 14 banks in Iran that have so far escaped some U.S. restrictions, Bloomberg noted. The sanctions come just days after Iran reported a record 4,151 new coronavirus infections over a 24-hour period, bringing the nation's total number of positive cases to more than 479,000. The hardest hit nation in the Middle East, Iran, has reported nearly 30,000 deaths from the coronavirus, a figure that critics said will only be made worse by the Trump administration's economic warfare. So, just to be clear, the Trump administration had already been sanctioning medicine. I know because we covered the story, and it even got to the International Criminal Court, and the International Criminal Court said, hey, United States, you are not allowed to sanction medicine. This is for civilians. This is unacceptable. This constitutes a war crime that you're doing it. And our reaction to it, the Trump administration's reaction to it, was pulling out of the International Criminal Court and saying, you can go screw yourself, we're going to keep doing it. So we're already sanctioning that kind of stuff. They already have a zillion sanctions on them. And now they're adding even more. So why is this happening? Well, we've been discussing it over the past few months. Donald Trump and his merry band of bloodthirsty neocons, I think a lot of them see the writing on the wall and they know that Trump is probably going to lose. So they're making this last-ditch effort, this push to try to oust the government, to try to implode the country, to try to get new leadership, to try to do regime change. And this is what happens when you pack your administration full of these neocons. Now, thankfully, John Bolton's not there anymore, but Gina Haspel's still there. Mike Pompeo is still there and more powerful than ever. So this is unacceptable. And let's be clear, this is one of those issues where there is no comparison between Biden and Trump. Biden would have kept us in the Iran deal because he was part of the administration that negotiated it. Of course, he's not going to attack one of his signature accomplishments. And there's a decent chance that if Biden gets elected, he'll put us right back in that agreement, which is necessary, and the Paris Climate Agreement, which is necessary. Those things, there are too many areas where Trump and Biden are similar. There are way too many of them, and we talk about them all the time. On the issue of Iran and on the issue of the Paris Climate Agreement, they're not similar. They're not even close to similar. Biden is just better, okay? So they're really trying to squeeze out the government in the fourth quarter here for Trump. And they don't care who gets hurt in the process. They don't care about the civilians. They never cared about the civilians. They never did. They always pretend like, oh yeah, the reason why we want to get rid of the government is because of the civilians. We need to look out for the Iranians. You don't even care about Americans. So of course they don't care about Iranians. What they care about is having another country under their thumb. Because this is what imperialists do, you know? And go back and read the history. Don't take my word for it. It would blow your mind. A lot of what's happened over the years. It would blow your mind. Just the fact that we overthrew their democratically elected leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, in I believe it was 1953. He was a leftist. You know what he wanted to do? nationalize the oil and give the money to the people. We overthrew them and said, that's not allowed, because us in the UK, we're getting that oil cheaply. So you're not going to look out for Iranians with your own natural resources. We're going to take your natural resources. We put in the Shah. He was a dictator. He was overthrown in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. By the way, one of the reasons why it was an Islamic revolution and not a secular revolution is because one of the few places that Iranians could meet and strategize and plan and organize was in mosques. It's one of the few places where the Shah and his cronies were not spying. So that's not to say, oh my God, the Shia theocracy in Iran is perfect. Of course they're not. They're oppressors as well. But let's just understand our role has been meddling, stealing, and we're trying to oust the government. We have no business doing any of this, but we're trying to oust the government, and we don't care how many civilians get hurt in the process. This is a story that should be talked about a lot more in the media, and it's just not. And it's pathetic. They're doing war crimes on top of war crimes. You would think that the anti-Trump resistance would maybe put this front and center, but they don't. And it's totally inexcusable.